Hey beautiful minds. Today, we have a really interesting find that was brought to our attention by RJ and Spirit Woman in our last live stream. So I wanted to give them a shout out and thank them for bringing up this newspaper that essentially speaks of ruins in America from an advanced civilization. I'll leave the original video that brought this up in the comments, but it's kind of narrated by a text-to-speech program, so I thought it would be cool if we narrated this ourselves. Also, I'll leave the original newspaper in the description, so make sure to check that out. And with that, let's get started. On January 6, 1858, the Raftsman Journal published an intriguing article called Antiquities in America, discussing many of the ruins and structures around the continent that have not been discussed by official history. It reads, "Throughout the entire length and breadth of the country washed, as it is by the waters of two mighty oceans, and abounding in natural resources enormous beyond what is impossible to conceive, we find much to admire in the aspect and beauty of nature, and whether we travel from the distant shores of Maine and New Brunswick to the golden sands of California and the shores of the Great Pacific, or from the bright crystal lakes of Minnesota to the orange groves of Florida, we behold throughout the immense extent the features of nature, grand and beautiful in every form and aspect. The mineralogist, the geologist, the naturalist, the botanist, and even the antiquarian have all a rich field here. Strange as it may appear, America abounds in antiquities, so extensive, so beautiful and majestic, as to rival those of Thebes or Nineveh. Ruins of ancient cities of immense extent, fortifications, mounds, and pyramids, temples with walls built of hewn stone showing a refined taste in architecture, and adorned with human figures beautifully executed. Large altars ornamented with hieroglyphics, probably giving a record of those who reared them, but which no man has been able to decipher. Remains of ancient palaces, with beautiful specimens of sculpture and painting, with many other marks of ancient greatness, prove to us that this is not a new world, but that a powerful empire existed at a very remote period of time, teeming with a population highly skilled in arts, and in a state of civilization far beyond anything we have been led to conceive of the Aborigines previous to the discovery of the continent by Europeans. Now, keep in mind that this article was most likely written by peoples who had already been indoctrinated with the history given by the New Church of Rome. They are still following a traditional Scaligerian timeline, yet they are curious as why many of these remains in America have not been discussed or explained. We continue. The antiquities of America extend from the eastern shores of Maine and Massachusetts to the Pacific, and from the Great Lakes and British Dominions to Peru and La Plata in South America. In fact, throughout the extent of both continents, immense forests grow over the ruins of large cities, and the gigantic size of the trees, with indications that other generations of trees sprung up and grew before them, proves that the ruins were in existence before the Christian era. In every portion of the United States, interesting ruins have been discovered. In the state of New York, have been found sculptured figures of 100 animals of different species, executed in a style far superior to anything exhibited by any of the existing tribes of Indians. The state of Ohio abounds in ruins of towns and fortifications, with extensive mounds and pyramids. At Marietta and in Missouri, beautiful pottery, silver and copper ornaments, and pearls of great beauty and luster have been dug from the earth. Quick note, this reminds me of the story of Joseph Smith and the founding of the Golden Tablets. The Mormons knew this information that there were advanced peoples in the Americas. Perhaps it's one of the many secrets that have been removed from common knowledge. Back to the article. In the caves of Tennessee and Kentucky, mummies have been found in a high state of preservation, clothed with cloths and skins of various texture, and laid with feathers. Like discoveries have been made at Carlton, near Milwaukee, in the state of Wisconsin. Ruins of huge fortifications appear. Similar ruins appear in the state of Missouri. On the south side of the Missouri River, in the western portion of the state, is an enclosure of some 500 acres, which includes the ruins of a building no doubt ancient tower, with walls over 100 feet high and 80 feet wide at the base, attached to which are a redoubt and citadel, with work much resembling the structure of a tower in Europe. But it is in the south of Mexico that magnificent and beautiful ruins present themselves in abundance. Ruins of majestic cities and magnificent temples and altars, with beautiful works of sculpture, tastefully wrought, palaces adorned with paintings, colors chiefly sky blue and light green, which shows by their richness and elegance to be the work of highly cultivated people. These ruins, majestic and beautiful in appearance, but overgrown with thick forest of mahogany and cedar of immense dimensions and great age, prove to the world that a great empire existed here at a very remote period of time, and that this empire teemed with an immense population, a people skilled in the mechanical arts, and an advanced state of cultivation. The most extensive ruins are to be found at Uxmal and Palenque in the southeast of Mexico. At Uxmal are immense pyramids coated with stone and quadrangular stone edifices and terraces. The highest of these pyramids are 130 feet, and on the summit it supports a temple. On one of the facades of the temple are 4 human figures cut in stone with great exactness and elegance. The hands are crossed upon the breast, the head is covered with something like a helmet, above the neck is a garment of the skin of an alligator, and over each body is a figure of a death's head and bones. At Palenque, a city of great extent, are immense ruins with the remains of a royal palace. One temple, that of Copan, 520 feet by 600, and supposed to have been as large as St. Peter's at Rome. Another temple of great dimensions is here, having an entrance by a portico 100 feet long and 10 feet broad. It stands on an elevation of 60 feet. The pillars of the portico are adorned with hieroglyphics and other devices. Different objects of worship have been found, representations of the gods who were worshipped in this country. These temples, with 14 large buildings and many other objects of curiosity, stand here as monuments of ancient greatness, to remind us the remote origin of a mighty empire. The city has been described as the Thebes of America, and travelers have supposed that it must have been 60 miles in circumference and contained a population of 3 million souls. So if you haven't seen our video on Norumbega, I would check that out, but one of the books from these early European settlers, such as David Ingram, speak of these natives living in these palaces, with these banquet halls and great pillars where the natives would host rituals. And that kind of gets into whether or not these natives are some type of cover-up for the advanced civilization who lived here and the attempt to depict them as savages, or possibly a great cataclysm occurring sending these inhabitants into a state of cannibalism and barbarism. Then the article reads, centuries must have elapsed and dynasties succeeded each other before such orders of architecture were introduced, and a great length of time must have passed before an empire would become sufficiently powerful to erect such temples and possess a city of such vast extent. And looking back to the past, we feel interested in the imagination that these people, once in the noonday of glory, enjoying all the fruits and luxuries of an advanced civilization. But when we behold these ruins, in melancholy reflection must at once seize our minds. On the ground where once nations met in their strength and power, wild beasts now roam, and venomous serpents wend their way. And over these vast cities, where once the busy hum of industry and the voice of merriment resounded, grows the vast cedar on whose branches the owl chatters discordant notes, and the bat sleeps at meridian. In this country is exhibited the largest pyramid in the world, that of Cholula near Puebla. It covers 41 acres and is 200 feet high. On its summit was a temple, and in the interior has been discovered a vault, roofed with beams of wood, containing skeletons and idols. Several other smaller pyramids surround this large one. It appears to have been formed by cutting a hill into an artificial shape. Its dimensions are immense, being nearly 3 miles in circumference and about 400 feet high. It is divided into terraces and slopes, covered with platforms, stages, and bastions, elevated one above the other, and are formed with large stones, skillfully cut and jointed with cement. In some respects, the style of architecture resembles the Gothic, being massive and durable, while in other respects it resembles the Egyptian, yet the general construction manner and style of architecture is different from anything hitherto described in the world. Notice how they compare this architecture to the Gothic style, perhaps Tartarian in nature. In Egypt, hieroglyphics on stone denote remarkable events which no one has yet been able to decipher. A dark shade rests on the Antiquities of America, and a few rays of light enliven the gloom. We have ancient history to inform us of the events of Egypt, how the empire was founded and how it prospered and how it fell. We have the same record for Babylon, Nineveh, Greece, Rome, and Carthage. But not the least information have we relative to those who erected these cities. What people and hence they came, not a ray of light to dispel the dark gloom which seems to rest on the earliest history of America. Well, that's because the priests and historians of the Jesuit Catholic Church removed this information and claimed most of it as being their origin. Back to the article. Architecture, sculpture, painting, and all the arts that adorn civilized life have flourished in this country at a period far remote. There is evidence sufficient to prove that these cities were in ruins at least 16 or 1800 years ago. In Palenque are the remains of an altar over which grows an immense cedar, whose powerful roots enshrine it. The whole city is overgrown with mahogany and cedar trees of enormous size. The concentric circles of some of these trees, the well-known cycles for a year, have been counted, which showed they were more than 800 years old, and there were indications of another generation of trees having sprung up before them. I'm not so sure about that method, but it is interesting. Perhaps many of these structures are from an antediluvian age and possibly older than this, but still interesting that they are completely overgrown by such massive ancient trees. We continue. How few reflect on the fact that America is an old dominion, the seat of an ancient, mighty empire. These facts are opening themselves every day to the eyes of the astonished world, and it is to be hoped that the spirit of inquiry, which seems at present to animate all classes of learned men, may throw light on the early history of this remarkable region. And that's about it, but I found it interesting that they ended this article with this. The following is on a tombstone in Ireland. Here lies the body of John Mound, lost at sea and never found. So during this age, they were well aware that America was filled with ancient monuments from a great past civilization. Perhaps they had already been brainwashed to believe the many mainstream histories that we've been fed, but it wasn't completely covered up at this time yet. So, very interesting indeed, and another commenter named JP Cannon shared this book that we'll have to go into on another video. It has even more clues to this mystery, and it's from 1833. It covers a variety of similar topics such as ancient antiquities in the west of America, the Tartars being in the west, Roman forts in Marietta, Ohio, the evidence of Danes being in America, ruins of an ancient city 800 miles below New Orleans, and much more, so stay tuned for that one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Come check out our Instagram and backup channels and leave us a comment with your thoughts or any finds that you may think are interesting. Let's remember to stay curious, and only then may our minds be unveiled.
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?